Well, hello. As everybody may know, or you may not know, I'm Big D. And I am a fan of all things Warhammer. One of the things I like most about Warhammer is some of the weird and some of the gross and some of the really, really freakishly weird stuff. One of my favorites is the Death Guard. And this week, the Death Guard get their update for 9th edition. So I am super excited. Welcome to Taco Tuesday, everyone. Lady D is laying down. She has taken some medication, and it's making her a little loopy. So I have her laying down so that I don't have to order her into bed for being a weirdo. But we have the Commodore. Welcome, sir. We have Greg Tesh. Welcome, sir. And we have Tyza, along with Lady Dragon. Good evening, all. So, Death Guard get their update this week. No, she's fine. Just, she's a lovely lady. Yeah, no, she's in a little bit of pain, so she took some loopy meds, and now she's loopy. So the Death Guard get their update this week. I have the new book and the new cards on order. I have a shop holding. They ran out of the pre-order for them. I have a shop holding the new Lord of Virulence whip for me. And I have been furiously working on my Nurgle terrain. Unfortunately, I've had some real-life things going on that have kept me from working on it as much as I wanted to. I wanted to have it done this past weekend, but that didn't happen. I will have it done this coming weekend, though. So our schedule is going to be behind by a week or two, but that's still okay. We're still going to be working on terrain repeatedly, lots and lots and lots, and that's a good thing. I'm going to be going this weekend over to Commodore's house, and I will be showing him how to hook up his printer and get everything going on it and get himself good to go. Although he did not get a Mars, so I'll have to figure out how his is different than mine. Pale Orc, how you doing, sir? Amanda Pale Orc is in the house tonight. Just so it's said, since I'm talking about printing, Pale Orc, here is the body I went with. I put together a pair of saw arms. And I got a pair of treads ready to go. And I went with this back piece. So they've had a day to dry after coming out of the printer. So they will be going into the UV bath later tonight and get glued up, primed, and worked on the next issue. Oh, and the head. Where's his head? I want a chunky head. I went with the Angry Boy head. So he is. This is an orc. This is something that, for those of you looking at going, what the hell is this? This is an orc deaf tread that Pale Orc designed. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm not crazy about how the arms get put together, but that's a personal thing. I think they look good, and that's important. And people that are used to putting the pieces together will have no problem with it. I had to muss with it a little bit, but I got it to work. And it'll be a great source for bits too. I've already printed a couple extra bits to go on to other vehicles. I love the gun bits. I'm going to be using the heavy shooter mini turrets you've got there. I'm going to be using them on a whole bunch of vehicles because they're just easy to build as a secondary gun. So I'll just print them out and stick them on and be done. Which is one of the reasons I wanted a printer. I wanted to be able to just have quick and easy pieces to pull. So trying to give people an idea of what this deaf tread is going to look like. He's a pretty cool little boy. So he's good. I like him. He's going to get some pinning after he's dried. And then we'll get him primed up. I won't get to painting him right away just because I got too many things ahead of him. But I at least wanted to get him printed out and put together so I could give you my reactions on it. So I like the pieces. I like the level of detail. They look very professional. It's a good looking model kit. So well done, Pale Orc. You should stick that up on 3D Cults and charge people for that kit. You could probably make a few bucks on that, dude. It's worth it. It's a pro. How big is he next to another Dread? He's shorter. The body is the same size. The arms are the same size. The guns are a little smaller, and because the legs, that's good. Because he's on treads instead of full-size legs, he's a bit shorter. But other than that, he's pretty much the same size. So it's fine. I don't think anyone will have a problem with it. I'm going to put him on a base because dreads do come on a 60 millimeter base. So I'm going to stick him on a 60 millimeter base, but it's fine. I think it's perfectly good. So good on you then. Yeah, it's a pro kit, dude. And like I said, the nice thing about it is that some of the bits are completely reusable. Like I'm going to print the big shooters and put them on lots of my vehicles, a lot of my kit bashed vehicles. It's just a quick and easy slap two on. Look, it's two heavy shooters or two big shooters. So, God, itchy. Winter is here, so the air is dry, and so my skin is dry and itchy. Oh God. Trying to keep from scratching. So yeah, Nurgle's getting a bunch of goodness. Oh my goodness. Rules changes are major rules changes. Only one Lord. So you'll be able to have like one Lord, which is like a Lord of Virulence, a Lord of Corruption, Typhus, Chaos Lord, or a Demon Prince. You're only allowed to have one per detachment. So those of us who had armies that would stick 2 or 3 Demon Princes in there in larger fights to throw a couple of melee monsters in there, you're gonna need second detachments to get a second Demon Prince. So I got 4 Demon Prince models, so that's kind of yeah, it's kind of a bummer. The I'm also looking at taking the treads, just so it's said, Pale Orc. I'm also looking at taking the treads and seeing if I can stretch them on my slicer to use them as a base for making homemade grot tanks, because the treads are a nice chunky tread. So I think they'd make a good. Grot tank tread. So just so it's said. That's a project for another day. So that's going to limit the amount of dudes we have in a. Well, we'll see what you got. One Lord per unit. That's going to change things. Mortarian's an absolute beast. There's already a lot of people wang about how powerful Mortarian is. Because he's 490 points of "You're Not Killing Me." The word is something like you would need to have 700 some odd points of Eradicators focused firing on just him to take him out, which I think is ridiculous. In one turn, obviously. Yeah, he's powerful. He can take a lot of hits. He can take a lot of damage. In a 2,000 point game, he is 1/4 of your army. He should be. He is as much as, I think he's one of the most expensive figures in the game, of the base game. Yeah, I know there's some Forge shit that's bigger, but and more expensive. But I mean, realistically, I think he's on a par with the bigger knights. So he's a Primarch. He's supposed to be damn near unkillable. He's supposed to be powerful. It also doesn't mean that he's really, really awesome at what he does. He's good. I mean, when he walks up to stuff, he definitely kills it. I honestly don't know if he's actually, if he is what he is, or if he is more of a distraction card effects. Well, that's the thing. You know, his buffs are great, but the problem is, you know, the reality is, in 9th edition, yeah, his buffs are great, but he doesn't win objective points. You put a group of 10 guardsmen on the same point that he's guarding, he loses that objective. So, you know, he's there to wipe units out. So, and he's going to draw every last bit of fire from your army. So we'll see. I'm definitely going to play him. Don't get me wrong. I'm looking forward to playing him with his new rules. I really, really want to play him because he's going to have 4 Warlord traits. 3 more already defined, and then you'll be able to pick a 4th Warlord trait for him, because if he's in your Death Guard army, he's automatically your Warlord, but you get to pick what it is, which is crazy. Yeah, so that means his cloud, his fart cloud is 9 inches from him from the very start of the game. But I mean, that's why I built a set of Death Shroud. So he's going to have 3 bodyguards running around with him when I put him down the table. I'm going to make him even more unkillable. That's my goal. I want to put Mortarion down the table and have him smush stuff. Do I think that's a tournament quality figure? No, I don't. I don't know yet. I don't know. I do think with what I've seen so far in the leaks, and what I've seen from the figures, and what I've seen from some of the stats, I do think Death Guard are definitely going to jump up a step or two in the whole competitive scene. They're going to have a lot more weapons. A base squad is going to be able to walk around with basically all having special weapons. That's crazy. 5-man squad's going to have four special shooting weapons. Could do 4 special shooting weapons, and one guy walks around with a flail. Plus, they reduce damage by 1. Plus, they've got 2 wounds. So, and their armor 3. That's tough. That's tough. I was really worried about what they're going to do with the apothecary. I should say I was really worried what they're going to do with the plague surgeon. I just gave it away. They're making him apothecary. So instead of him giving you a reroll, which there is no reroll anymore, he's giving you a roll. He's giving... Oh, I'm not giving a roll. What he's doing the same thing a Primaris apothecary does. He walks in and goes, "My people have an invul save, and I can heal you. Be healed. Ah, be healed." So, yeah, and that's the thing. You're going to need more special weapons, and there's a lot of weird rules on what you can do. Like, my normal run right now, if I run a 5-man group, I run the sergeant with a power fist and a power fist, a plague sword, and sometimes I'll have him take his plasma rifle. I don't always, because I'm not a fan of plasma with my army the way it runs. And then you take 2 guys with bolters, and you take 2 guys with the way I normally run. I run with 2 blight launchers. Can't do that anymore. You have to have a 10-man squad. Yeah, and that's the thing. It kind of is, but overcharged plasma isn't, because overcharged plasma kills Marines. But you can't have 2 blight launchers with a 5-man unit. You need 10 for that. You can't have 2 plasma guns until you have 10-man. But what you can have is you can have 1 guy with the plague spewer, basically regular the plague flamer. You can have 1 guy with either a blight launcher or the heavy plague flamer. You can have 1 guy with either a melt-a-gun, plasma gun, or something else. And then you can have 1 guy with a flail. So you could have plasma. You could have a plasma guy, a melta guy, a flamer guy, and a blight launcher and a flail in 1 5-man unit squad. Expensive, very expensive. Well, not really, because all the weapons are either 5 or 10 now. So, just all the weapons. But they also messed it up so you can't just go, well, I'm going to put an all-melee squad. It's not as easy to put an all-melee Marine squad either together. The rules text box is like this long. So if you're playing Death Guard, you really need to look at the rules for your Marines, because your Marines rules changed. You can still run, 1 special weapon. Your dude has a plague. Your sergeant has a plasma gun, but you're not having a matching pair of the other 2 guys. You're not running one of the squads that was very popular with if you were running that army, was having the squad leader with a plasma gun, 2 regular guys, and then 2 guys with plasma guns. And you have 3 squads of that. And you run them in a death ball with a guy that rerolls 1s, so you're always firing that crap overcharged. Putting 2 wounds and everything. That's not a bad way to go. But now you can't even do that. You can't have 2 plasma guns. You could have 1 guy with a plasma gun, but the other guy, if he has a special weapon, he's got to have something else. And like I said, it's a weird block of lists. Like, you wouldn't be able to have a heavy plague flamer and a blight launcher, because I think they're in the same group of weapons. So it's very complicated. but it makes sense. It's lined out very distinctly and very delineated. But it really makes you want to run 10-man squads. But as a 10-man squad, you could run some real shit in there. Because you could put a plague sergeant in there, 2 guys with meltas, 2 guys with flamers, 2 guys with blight launchers, 2 guys with flails, and then a guy with a shotgun. I mean, a guy with a bolt gun, and he's carrying a banner. And stick that all into one rhino and run that up the board and drop that, and suddenly you've got a squad of special weapons sitting in front of you. Pew pew, miniatures paintbrush, pew pew. Yeah, so this Death Guard release is going to be good, and apparently they've done kind of the same thing with our Terminators. Not everybody's going to be able to have combo weapons. Like, you're going to be limited in the number of combo weapons Terminators are going to have. They're basically, I think, as a 5-man squad, 3 of them, you're going to be able to have, the leader's going to be able to have a 1 combo weapon, and one of the other one's going to have a combo weapon, and the other 2 are going to have regular storm bolters. So I gotta look at the rules for that, because and I haven't seen the leak on that. So hopefully I get my codex either tomorrow or Thursday. I should be getting it early. And as soon as we get that codex, we will go live and start flipping through the rules. I'll read them along right to you, just so we can get I might read them first, just to kind of go over them. But there's a lot of stuff coming. I know one of the other leaks that somebody was talking about. The Death Guard have a lot of 1-man elite units. And they're all going to get a keyword or something about them that's going to make them special, that all of these 1-unit elites, 3 of them take up a single unit slot. So you'll be able to take 3 of them, and that's 1 elite slot. So you could take, 2 tallymen and a surgeon, that's 1 slot. And then 3 foul blight spawns, that's a 2nd slot. So I'll confirm that once I got the rule, but that was the word on the street, was that was another major change to the Death Guard, because they have so many single unit elite units. They have, just off the top of my head, I think thinking randomly, I can think of 5. Well, you got the Foul Blight Spawn, you got the Plague Surgeon, you got the Tallyman, you got the Biojuice Purifier. You have the... I can't remember all their freaking names. Okay, you got Grenade Dude, Sprayer Dude, Surgeon Dude, Counting Dude, Bell Guy. I think those are the 5 I can come up with off the top. Those are all the 5 I use on a regular basis. So just those 5. And I'll get you the full rules of it. It might be up to 3 of the same. So you could have like 2 or 3 of them to make 1 unit, instead of them all being just lone. I don't know. I got to read the rule. But yeah, that should be pretty good. 3 being a reoccurring number of Nurgle, that would make a lot of sense. You could put 3 of the same unit in there. The entropy cannons are no longer have to pay a CP, as I understand it. Automatically now, the entropy cannons, the heavy las cannons on the sides of the burst crawler, those are automatically now plague weapons. They're now basically they're evil. They're not just lasers; they're gross lasers. I watched a battle report. Some Winter's SEO got a copy of the rules early, so he actually did a battle report like right away, using those rules with his end of all things, just so he could showcase a lot of the new rules. they have a secondary objective that's kind of neat. It's kind of subjective, but it's really neat. If they're fighting a unit using plague weapons and they cause a unit to have losses due to morale, they get 3 victory points. So you can do it 5 times, obviously, 1 through 5. So there's your 15 points. So considering how many weapons they have now are plague weapons. The entropy cannons are plague weapons. All the spitters are really good. They got rid of the brackets on the bloat drone. They got rid of the brackets. They took it down a wound, so it's got less wounds now, but it doesn't have brackets, so it just performs at its level until it's dead. And it's got 3 up to hit. And I think they did that because it no longer gets the rerolls. Same for the burst crawler and the mephitic blight haulers. They don't get the reroller ones because they're no longer core, so they just gave them a 3 up to hit off the bat. Blow drones are cool. They're one of my favorite. Blight haulers are my favorite. Crawlers are my favorite. I love their demon engines. A lot of people are looking at now how dreadnoughts, especially the cheap cost comparatively of a Hellbrute, might be the super sneaky, cheap anti-tank unit. Although I still think the blight haulers, the mephitic blight haulers, are just such disgusting anti-tank. I mean, all 3. They have a multi-melta to begin with, and a hitting on 3 up with a multi-melta and with a full missile rack. And they're cheap, but they're going up in price. They're like now. I think they're going up to like 140. I think they're going up to 140. It's worth it because they're devastating and they're very mobile. So, yeah. So, and like I said, the Hellbrute's really great. I actually I'm thinking about eventually kit bashing a second Hellbrute. I have an old Hellbrute that's got a fist and a las cannon. I want to do them with the Scourge, with the whippy tentacles, but I want to make them very nurgly looking tentacles. So, kind of put raspy mouths and teeth all over them and, little suckers and whatnot, just instead of them being metal whips. So I think that'll be kind of cool. I have some ideas on how to make that work. So, really into kit bashing. I've really been enjoying doing a little bit of kit bashing I've done and looking at some kit bashing forums. You say that, Commodore, but my Slanesh army for 40K will have a Hellbrute, and that Hellbrute definitely will have, but they'll have the metallic tentacles because I'm going to make them look like they're barbed wire. Because, if it doesn't hurt more than it should, it doesn't hurt enough. And if I could take that thing as twin tentacles and just run it all over the board, saying hello to everyone, I would. So yeah, Death Guard's looking really, really good. The Fart Factory piece of terrain, I finally had to look at the size of it. It's $60, and it's a piece of terrain that's about a little bit taller than one of the big statues from Sanctus terrain. I might kit bash one of those together because I got an idea for the size, and I can make 3 balls with a smokestack coming out of it. They basically look like they're a fart factory. They're like a fart furnace. I can make that. It'll depend on how the rules on them work. I don't know if they're worth 75 points and a CP to buy a a terrain detachment, but it's worth giving it a shot. Maybe for a fun game. Maybe I'll convince Commodore to come over and we'll do a rematch of his Knights versus Nurgle, and I'll put one of those fart factories on the table, and we'll get him to put a Sacristan Forge Shrine on the table. And see how that goes out. What do you think, Tommy? You want to come play some Knights against Nurgle for fun? So they've also been doing a bunch of sneak peeks all day today. They're gonna have a big release video, The Dead and the Divine, this weekend. And Vampire Courts are getting stuff. They already showed one of the new Vampire Lords. I'm sorry if you're a fan of the figure. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But I don't. I just hate the head. I hate the head and the little bat barrettes all in its hair. It's got little bats all, because of the whole, the bats get stuck in my hair. That's what he looks like. Oh my God, bats are in my hair. The bats are in my hair. It's terrible. I love the pose. The problem was I would get the thing and I would completely kit bash the thing. I would take the arm off and I'd give the shield to Lady D so she could put it on one of her blade guard for her salamanders, because it got this beautiful dragon thing on it. That could be good. I don't deny, Taylor, that could be really good. But I give her the shield for one of her dudes, and then take and give it a blaster for the other arm. I put like a Archon head in it. It makes a really nice Archon figure. And then, I don't know. I just looked at that figure and I'm like, I can see if you're really into vampires, how cool it would be. I'm just not a fan of vampires. I haven't been a fan of vampires for a very long time. I will admit, as an emo goth kid in the early 90s, vampires got totally overplayed for me because everything was all about, we're emo, we're dark, we're so goth. We like the vampires. We are creatures of the night. And Anne Rice took off really big in the late 80s, early 90s. And so vampire everything got really powerful. No, I prefer if the vampires were dead. I'm a fan of Blade. I like my vampires cursing and being dead. And that's the thing. It was so funny. And I'm one to talk because I've got so much of the Vampire the Masquerade role-playing game. And I hate the game. I actually got most of it because at one point I liked it, and then it was just so overdone. It's like everybody was like, I am so tragic. I have a 25-chapter backstory of all the bad things that happened to me that have turned me into the monster that I am today. And I'm just like, oh my God, shut up. Just stop. Oh God, I got to the point where I hate vampires. I got to a point where there are certain writings of vampires that I don't mind. I still love Anne Rice. I really do. I love the Sookie Stackhouse novels and the True Blood TV series. I like that. That's a pretty cool take on vampires. It's an interesting take on the whole urban fantasy genre. I'm not a real fan of urban fantasy. I mean, I like shapeshifters. I like werewolves. I like werewolves. I see them more as the whole eco-terrorist thing. I love the White Wolf version of the werewolf. But even that, and that's a hard time keeping my attention from a reading perspective. And that's the whole thing. You can't debate taste. People like what they like. I'm not going to say anybody, you shouldn't get that army. If you like vampires, you should get the Vampire Courts and you should get your vampire figures and have a great time with them. My dislike of vampires goes so far as that's one of the reasons I don't like the Blood Angels. I'm just like, oh my God, they had to make vampire space marines to appeal to the goth kids, because the Night Lords weren't enough. Our evil Batman vampire Space Marines weren't enough. We have to give them good guy monsters. We be less. Yeah, no, that's the whole thing. That's what that vampire thing has me thinking about. I am being very nostalgic today. I can tell you honestly, one of the reasons I'm being very nostalgic today. My oldest boy reminds me of how old I actually am today, because today is my son's birthday, and he is 22 years old. And I will tell you, that is making me grumpier than anything else. Realizing that my oldest is that damn old. It's just like, wow. My baby boy is 22 years old. And you know, it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call to how, you know, the fact that I'm not a spring chicken anymore either. I'm not old. I mean, I'm not, oh, I'm so old. I'm not old yet. I'm middle-aged. You know, whatever. I'm middle-aged. I got my health. I'm fat, but I got my health. It's good to see you too, Al. I can only imagine, man. I can only imagine. Oh, I can only freaking imagine. But it's got me thinking about the 90s a lot. And I mean, that's the whole thing. I got into Warhammer in the 90s. I got into playing Warhammer and wargaming in the 90s. I had my son in the 90s. Well, I didn't have him. My wife at the time had him. Let's be honest. She was the main person playing that one. I was just I was a contributor, but I was the guy in the back with the tambourine. She did all the heavy work on that one. Al, you don't have to bet that one. That's not a bet anyone is going to take. That is not a bet anyone's going to take. So yeah, it's just, and that's the thing. It's just, for whatever reason, between his birthday and the vampire thing today, vampires always make me think of the 90s, because when I was a kid in the 80s, vampires weren't a thing. You know, people made fun of vampires, saying, blah, 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 blah. That was, you know, it was the silliness of the vampires, you know, because there was still, you know, Boris Karloff and, you know, that was the vampire people thought of, the Dracula from then. And then suddenly the 90s and emo became a thing and goth became a thing, and suddenly everybody wanted to be vampires, and vampires were awesome. And I was like, oh my God, stop with the damn vampire thing. It's ridiculous. And then there was a vampire role. My wife is screaming at me, and I can't. Bela Lugosi, thank you. You are correct. Yes, Bela Lugosi. You are correct. Sorry, whatever. Those old 30s movies. Movies that were ancient when I was a child. You know? I don't. Bela Lugosi, he's dead, Bela Lugosi. You know, but yeah, it was just funny realizing that today. I mean, all this vampire stuff that they're talking about today, and the Dead and the Divine. A lot of people are thinking it's going to be a new box set. It's going to be vampires and somebody else. I wouldn't think it would be Lumineth, because the Lumineth just got stuff, but then they just showed off some new Lumineth stuff. And they've got more cows. There's now a Lumineth cavalry guy that's riding a cow deer with lion paws. I was like, what the hell is this? This is some Australian stuff. And lo and behold, now they have. I said this seriously. The first thing I saw this picture, like, it looks cool, but it's, yeah, exactly. There was this thing. It's like, it looks like it's made from spare parts. It's some type of weird Australian animal. And then they showed the next one, and these guys are on elves on freaking kangaroos. I'm like, the Lumineth are completely going freaking Australian stuff. They've got kangaroos and spare parts animals, and their spiritual leader that they call on the might of is a cow mountain. And they've got cow helmets. It's just like, what the hell is with this army? I don't even know what to think of this army anymore. I'll be honest. I think the divine portion is going to be Sisters of Battle. I think the Sisters of Battle are going to get announced their new battle tome, because they've got their new box coming out with the Drukhari. So I would assume the Drukhari aren't going to be the only thing to get anything new coming out besides their tome. So, I mean, in the hobby, it's a good time to be. And you go along with all this, I want to work on terrain. Like, I'm like really crazy to work on terrain. But my brother in here reminds me, there's... Yeah, they did. They did. They man, some of that stuff is just like, the hell were you smoking? But then my brother in channel reminds me, I want to work on terrain, but I really, really, really want to work on some World War II models. I want to get into the habit of working on World War II models so that I can get my paint schemes down and understand the paint schemes of World War II a little better. So when I do my Flames of War tanks, I already kind of know what I'm doing with them, since I'm doing them at little bitty scale. I mean, those things are freaking 1/100th scale. Jesus, they're tiny. That's actually a little more intimidating than doing like full-size tanks. Full-size tanks are like, oh, you can. But little tanks, I mean, if you do too much wash, you just completely ruin the vehicle, because now it just looks like it's just a pile of crap. Look, it's a turd with tank treads on it and a gun sticking out. So, it's messed up. I want to get working on those German and American tanks, but I want to take a couple of those wonderful vehicles that my brother gifted me and spend some time painting them up to get used to working in that color palette. I've got a bunch of the rust effects. He sent me some weathering effects earlier on that I've got set aside for that project. I've also got some AK Interactive stuff that I want to try out. So I want to do some modeling. I actually want to do some honest-to-goodness modeling. So a lot going on. That's pretty cool. Plus, now I'm working on. I'm going to be helping Commodore get his 3D printer set up. I'm in a league for playing 40K, and we're 2/3 of the way through the month, and I've played one game, and I got to get another game in. So I'm trying to get a game off this Saturday morning. But hopefully I'll have my codex before Saturday morning so that I can actually build my army using the new rules. Bust out some new rules on somebody. Fuck your feelings. And although I'm not going to talk about it, I'm not going to talk about it in depth at all, so don't have to worry about it, my wife. Last week and a half, it's been very political. And I'm a very political-minded person. Yeah. And so it's just been busy with that, too. And I understand you want to be done moving in so you can just get back to modeling and sewing, I can imagine. Because your sisters were looking pretty. Gotta get more sisters done. Gotta get your sisters done. Gotta get playing. Get in the habit of you and my wife beating each other up. That'll be great. and then getting the two of you beating up on Commodore. That'll even be better. And speaking of playing, in Australia, oddly enough, Perth, Australia this weekend had one of their big annual grand tournaments. Had 80 people playing, 7-round tournament. So that's huge. Well, let's not get crazy, Phoenix. Let's not get crazy. Playing me. You get the 3 you playing me. That'll be fine. But there was a GT in Perth this weekend, and it's probably the biggest one that's run. It's probably the biggest tournament since COVID started. So that's exciting. That's like really, for those of us that really want to know what the hell is the meta in 9th, what's good, what's not good, how do things play out against each other? How is this looking? Man. Yes, I think so. I believe you can do it. It gets a little crazy though, but I think you can. I think it's easier to do 2-on-2. But I'm pretty sure we can do a 4-person battle at once. I don't know how much fun it would be because whoever's last is really gonna just get screwed. We're just gonna pick on you. Oh shit! If we can get 4 people to play together, we're gonna do some 2-on-2. We'll do 2-on-2 and then 2-on-2. We'll do pairings. So it's like we'll do 2, 1-on-1, and then have them play. It's like there's 4 people. We'll play this way. Then we'll have them play this way, and then we'll have them, play like that. 3v1. D goes last. Fine. If it's a 3 you and me, you 3 get 1,000 points apiece, and I get 3,000 points to fight back with it. I'm okay with that if you really want to go there. But having an 80-person tournament this weekend in Perth, and what a crazy tournament it was. I was looking at the list. Now, everything we have seen so far, everything everybody's talked about, all the little tournaments, the 15 or 6, the 16-person tournament or the 20-person tournament or the 12-person tournament, the little tournaments that have happened here and there since COVID, you've seen Custodes, you've seen Space Marines, and you've seen some Death Guard. Demons have been huge. Demons have been crazy powerful. And the other army, Necrons, obviously. So Necrons, but not too much. You'd think you'd see more, but not too much. But it's basically been Marines, Custodes, and Demons for the most part. Holy crap, this army had 80 teams playing. Like, I would say there was like 6 Marine armies. That was it. There was like 6 Marine armies in all 80 armies. And the first place army was Emperor's Children Chaos Marines combined with Slaneshi Demons. I was like, the hell army is this? And he just absolutely just crushed people. It was crazy. The 4th place team was a Tyranid army, and it was a Tyranid army that wasn't hordes. It was like, what is this? This is some weird... what the hell is this build? I've never seen anybody play anything like this. So everybody's expectations kind of got chucked out the window. Australia is a weird place, and they said, well, you know what? We're weird, so we're going to play stuff that nobody is going to play in tournament play, including Death Corps of Krieg. There were like 3 separate Sisters of Battle combined with Death Corps of Krieg armies. It was like, where's the synergy there? That's bizarre. And in almost every case, The Death Corps of Krieg was there as the shooty portion of the army, and the sisters were there for the fighty part. It was like, what are you playing here? It was some weird. Yeah, no, dude, I'm telling you, if people didn't know, Palorg is an Australian. I mean, dude, I was reading this Perth tournament and reading these pairings and reading these matchups, and I was just like, what in the hell are these armies? They were weird. There were 2 orc armies. Like the one that came in like 29th some odd place was Goffs. And it was basically the big orc Thraka and just an unbelievable amount of boys. And like a couple of weird boys to throw the jump. And that was about it. It was just like you're dealing with lots of 30-man mobs of dudes just swarming all over the board. Okay. But then there was a Death Skulls one that came in like 16th place. And he had like 12 separate buggies on this. He had like 3 of all 4 of the different buggies. Because you only have 3, for those of you that aren't fully aware, you can only have 3 of a specific unit other than troops. And the orcs have 4 different what they call their buggies. He had 3 of each one of them. So he had just it was crazy. Again, just the weirdest meta, the weirdest list. And like the few standard armies that I was used to seeing were way down on the list because they didn't do well. I was like, what the hell? I mean, there was a Custodes list that was like basically it's the same Custodes list I run at 2,000 points. And it's a really good list. And it couldn't handle playing in that meta. There were so many Chaos Demon lists there. It was weird. It was just, so much Slaanesh. My God, there was so much Slaanesh demon stuff. Crazy. And the amount of sisters armies was just unbelievable. Apparently, you Australians really love the Sisters of Battle because I would say probably of the 80 armies there, I would say probably somewhere between 15 to 20 of them were Sisters of Battle armies. Or Sisters of Battle with Death Corps of Krieg. And that was the thing. That was the only army you ever saw paired up with a Sisters of Battle was someone who have a bunch of Death Corps of Krieg with them. It's like, what the hell are you doing? Oh, yeah. And I did link it to one of the chats I'm in. I mean, there were some really interesting different Necron lists there, too. I thought it was great. Necrons were really prevalent. There was probably like 10 different Necron lists. And none of them... That was the other thing I really liked. In a lot of American tournaments, you see like separate lists, but you'll see very close, very similar builds, with a couple points here and there, but the lists will be very similar. I didn't see anything duplicate. I didn't see any mirror lists anywhere in those 80 lists. I mean, every single list was just weird. And like the Marine lists I saw, there was a Space Wolf list that was intercessors, and they were using Thunderwolf cavalry with Lightning Claw and Shield, which I would never think to use. But they had a whole bunch. They had like 9 of those guys in there, and I don't even, like I said, I didn't even know what to make of that list. The list was weird. There was a what you would consider a very standard White Scars list, and he was way down in the ratings. It was basically a bunch of Outriders and Khan on bike, and what you would typically expect out of a good solid White Scars list. I mean, White Scars are one of the best armies for the Marines right now. No, they got beat all to hell. It was a weird tournament, but it was cool. It was really cool to see. And if you, I'll put a link to the channel down below. No, you still got another half hour, my buddy. Still got another half hour. but it was really cool. I'll put a link in the chat below. I found their official channel, and they actually play a bunch of the games and do battle reports on them. They actually don't even battle report them. They've actually got the full battle on their channel. I think they do their top 4 tables. So you'll get to, there's like 8 or 12 fights you'll be able to see. But they were really cool. I watched one of them, and yeah, I mean, those armies are just like, what the hell am I looking at here? Just some weird lists. I loved it. I don't get me wrong. I mean, there was a top 15 army that was Chaos Knights. Knights are not competitive right now. They are not in the least bit competitive right now. They're terrible. And this guy came in like 15th place out of 80. You know, if he came in 15th out of 16th, I would understand. But he came in 15th out of 80 playing Chaos Knights. It's like, wow, what the hell is going on here? I mean, Australia, you weird. You are some weird shit, Australia. Just saying. Weird shit going on in Australia. Obviously, with the Death Guard, everybody has been pulling apart. Every channel has been that got a preview copy of the codex has been pulling it apart into pieces. Auspex Tactics, again, if you really want to understand the nuts and bolts and math of an army or how to use specific units, I would go to Auspex Tactics. Really great channel. Not sponsoring anything, I just really enjoy their content. He can be a bit dry to listen to because he talks like this when he's explaining things, because he's trying to be a very direct and non-emotional and educational channel. So he talks like this when he's explaining things. So it can be a little dry. Getting through his hour-long breakdown of the Death Guard Codex did take me. I had to take it in chunks because, yeah, he was a bit. But it's good content. It's good content. It's good meaty content. He really breaks things down. Tactical Tortoise is another really good channel for that kind of thing, and they've been, like I said, everybody's been breaking down the Death Guard Codex. They're going to be very different to play, and that's the thing. I have to kind of reset all my expectations on how I play Death Guard, and change up how I play them. One of the real popular tournament versions of the army is just dropping a crap load of Poxwalkers on the table. You can't do that anymore. You have to have a number of core units. You can't have more Poxwalker units than you have core units. You also can't have more, or you can't have, you can have bubonic marine units. So the bubonic marine units are the plague marines, and the 2 types of terminators. So if you have 3 squads of Poxwalkers, you have to have a combination of 3 of those. So if you have 1 squad of Marines, a squad of Blightlord Terminators, and a squad of the Death Shroud Terminators, you can have 3 squads of Poxwalkers. There's a Poxwalker bomb list I saw that actually had 6 sets of Poxwalkers in it. I don't know if I would ever used it, but it was available. So that's not doable anymore. I also never noticed I never noticed Death Guard using cultists very much. I know Thousand Suns use cultists a lot, but Death Guard didn't really use cultists all that much. But they're also limited too. They're the same way. You can't have more of them than you have of bubonic Astartes. So you can only have limited them. I only have 2 squads of 10 built and painted. I don't know that I actually would ever. I used them once in a 500-point game when I needed to fill up a troop slot. Or it might have been a 1,000-point game. I needed to fill a troop slot. I didn't have enough for actually more Marines, so I just threw them in there to cover it. I don't know. I don't know that I would. I don't know how much I'd use them. It really depends on the point value of the game, and I thought I just don't have points for. But it's a reality. You're limited to how many you can use. I apologize. My eyes are watering something awful. I think as soon as we're done with the, as soon as we're pretty much done with the list here or the show tonight, I think I gotta grab my roommate and then I'm gonna go to bed because for whatever reason, old man tired. I went to bed. I had a long day today. It was. I had to type a whole lot of I had to push the button a whole lot of times today. It was a busy day of button pushing. So, cheap OBSEC unit. Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing. And that's the big difference in ninth. I've been thinking about it more and more. It's like, well, what would I use Poxwalkers for? And then I saw Aura Cultists. I would probably use the Poxwalkers before I'd need Cultists anyhow. But I saw freaking Winners took a group of Poxwalkers and he put a blob of 20 of them on an objective. And they're not shooting anything, they're just standing there. So while they're just standing there, they were doing the reclaiming the raise the banners and reclaiming the teleporters or whatever that's like. You know the thing where you do it every round and you get points for doing the thing every round and not doing anything else. They can do the thing, so we're Poxwalkers. We're doing the thing. They're an infantry unit. They're a core unit. They can do it. So they did. Yeah. So they were doing the thing as Poxwalkers. Poxwalkers, now they have an innate... They still don't have the armor save, but they still have a version of Disgustingly Resilient. So they're still be able to, no, I don't want to deal with your wounds. No, I don't want to deal with your stuff. So Poxwalkers are still actually a little bit more viable, I think, now because there's an overall meta change for the Death Guard. So we'll see. I'm going to be trying them out. I think I'll be throwing a 20 stack of them in my 500-point army because I can throw a stack of 20 of them for only 100 points because they went down in price. 20-men group for 100 points. That's a lot of bodies. That's a lot of bodies. So, might be worth it. I'm digging it. We talked about Lumineth, big reveal this weekend. We talked about that's going on. There was also the weird graphic a couple people pointed out today to me. They were showing that this big reveal thing they're going to do this weekend. They showed 40K. They showed Ada Sigmar. They showed Kill Team. Kill Team might be getting something finally. They showed Underworlds. So there's probably going to be another team they're going to reveal this weekend. And I forget one other game they showed off. And then they had just a blank oval with a circle around it and a question mark. So there's a thought that they're going to be announcing one of their new games this weekend with this reveal. Because everything else they put the logo out there for, there was no logo. So everybody's talking about it. Well, it's not Battlefleet Gothic. It's just, Old World they've said is like 2-3 years out. They've just started the design art stage in that. They're still designing the art and they're still designing the figures. So they're still a ways out with it. People who are saying, they're going to be using all the old figures. They're not using the old figures. They might use some of the old figures, but they're designing all new figures because they want to sell shit. They're not doing old world because, well, we just think people like it and think it's neat. No, they're looking to sell some shit, and they know that there's a desire for people to play Old Hammer. Oh, Adeptus Titanicus. That was the other game that was there. And so that's the thing. These are... Yeah, exactly. They teased the Kislev. They are not using any old figures. This is going to be all new figures. This is going to be like 30K. This is going to be all Forge World all the time, all resin, all new figures, all new rules, self-dedicated. That's what it's going to be. Let's not lie to ourselves. So there was talk about what is this other game going to be? Well, they just recently announced that there's work on the next Battlefield Gothic going forward, and that's a video game. So a lot of people are like, well, they're going to do Battlefield Gothic. No, they've converted Battlefield Gothic into a video game, and they're perfectly happy there. I think between Titanicus and Aeronautica, I don't think they're going to be doing any more specialty one-off games, or if they are, they're not going to do. I don't know. Just because I know they tried it with Fantasy and they tried Dreadfleet, and that failed horribly. So I'd like to see. I would like to see Battlefield Gothic. I really would love to see Battlefield Gothic. That is a game I would play. I can't see playing Titanicus. I'm not going to play Aeronautica. But Battlefield Gothic gets me the same way that 40K gets me. In that part of it's nostalgia. I used to play Battlefield Gothic back in the day. I love Battlefield Gothic. I love starship fights. Don't get me wrong. When Star Wars, about 10 years ago, Wizards of the Coast had a random box figure. It wasn't like the new X-Wing, but it was a random box. You would open up a box of random pre-painted figures, and you get whatever ships came out of there. And you could buy like capital ships, and you would know what capital ship you're getting, and then you get a couple of random figures in the box as well. You could do that, but it was all random stuff. I love that game. That game was fun. And I've heard that the new X-Wing is actually a really fun game. I dig that. I like fighter games. The reason I've resisted playing Aeronautica, to be honest, the main reason I've resisted Aeronautica is there have been too many games that have been one-off games that they started playing, they talk about their plans, they get one or two lists of army outs, and then they kill the game. And they did it in Dreadfleet. I actually looked at Dreadfleet, thought it was cool. Nobody's playing that game. They did it to Inquisitor. They had a whole line of figures. They supported it for like a year, and then they got rid of it. And they dumped it. I have a hard time using collectible figures for a one-use game. Hey there, man. Yeah, Dreadfleet had no support. So, but the thing is, Battlefield Gothic, that's been around for 30 years. And that is great. It's a fun game. If they keep to their core rules on that, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot. It was very similar to the original Starfleet Battles game, which was another game that I really loved. So I like Starship Combat. So if they do that, I'd probably get into that. It doesn't hurt that I have STLs for the entirety of the old game, that if I wanted to, I could probably dig up the old rules and print all the figures, and I could get my friends together and play that. But I got so many other games I want to do with my friends, I don't know if I want to bother. So we'll see if it's a game that's everybody's going to jump on. The other thought is that now that Dark Warhammer Quest Blackstone Fortress is done, the whole thing, Warhammer Quest, has been a series of games. So Blackstone Fortress was an entire story arc. They've done everything. It's complete. A lot of people, your dad might. I don't know if he played a game. I mean, I think he loved painting the figures. But I mean, it's very much fighter dog fighting. It's a dog fighting game. So, if nothing else, maybe get him the starter box. Let him see if he likes it. Can't hurt. If nothing else, it gets him some rando figures to paint very differently, and then what's the worst that could come out of it? You give your dad something else to build and paint. It's not like your dad doesn't like painting and building stuff. So I don't know. I actually think they kind of hit on it because it was the last one was Silver Fortress, and then the next one was Blackstone Fortress. So maybe it's time to go back to Age of Sigmar. Yeah, well, it's not like she can catch you. I can outrun you, old lady. Is the Dark Lady still awake? No, I think she's awake. You don't hate it. Oh, you don't? I hate it. Hey, Lady D, are you still awake? I think her pain pills. Yeah, she's kind of. Again, she took some pain pills to feel better, and so she's kind of out of it. Yeah, she wasn't doing the stream with me tonight, so she's sitting around here. Oh, you stop. You stop being so violent, Mr. Drake. We won't have any of that violent talk here. We would never use firearms on each other. I'll be honest. I think if they're going to do another game, I don't even know what to think at this point. An Underworlds type game set in the 40K universe would be kind of cool. And that would be terrible and wonderful at the same time. Maybe bringing back one of their older games that they've let go, like Inquisitor, like I forget the name. A Combat Patrol. There's a couple other games. I saw one of them that the guys over at Modding for Advantage was playing. Basically, you had these Scout Marines walking through the forest. Basically, it was Predator, and suddenly Gene Steers would come out of them. I'd love to maybe see a new version of Space Hulk. That's not just a single board game, that it's actually got more expansion to it. I'd love, or just re-release Space Hulk, for God's sake. It's such a good game. Why you want a limited edition that thing? It's such a good freaking game. It just dawned on me, because looking at your last name there, ma'am, it just dawned on me who you were. Because, I know you by your Gorka Morka. I know you by your other name. No, the camera's pointed at me, sweetheart. Gorka Morka would be... I would love to see it. I don't think they'll do Gorka Morka, honestly. And that's a shame. But I hate to say it, the orcs get no love. Yes, tell you what, I'll even shift it a little bit further. You are absolutely safe, my love. No, I mean, what are they going to do? They've already done a lot of new stuff. You got a good point there, Antonio. They could do something completely new, and that would be, again, I don't disagree that would be something completely new would be great, and it would be great. Don't get me wrong. I would love for them to do something completely great and new. It took me a minute. I realized who it is.
Yeah, that's our girl.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing, Mayim. It took me a minute. I'm tired too, so it took me a minute to realize that.
You're just old, man.
Yeah. I mean, you're right, Antonio. I mean, if you think they could do something new, I mean, if anybody can do something new, they could. A perfect example. Look at Underworld. Underworld was brand new at one point. That's only been a few years. That's brand new concept for them, mixing cards and figures. What do you call it? Aeronautica was a brand new game for them. Titanicus was kind of, it's more like Epic, but only with the knights. So, and that's the big thing. That's where I agree. And new games are a chance for a swing and a miss. It's a chance to try something new. It's also try to do something and fail. And depending on what mood they're in, they may not be in the mood to try something and fail. They've also proven that when they release something new that's a remake of something old or related to something old, it sells like crazy. Look at Necromunda. Look at Kill Team, which is like the third iteration of that game, but I think it's the most solid set of rules they've had for it so far, and it works. But yeah, I mean, it could be something brand new, and that'd be cool too. I don't get me wrong, I'd be cool with that as well. What do we do as we muse around here? I mean, what would we like to see? What would I like to see? What? Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about it when I'm off of the show.
No, actually, I was going to say when you go to get the Kinder.
We gave you a treat already. We'll see.
If I'm still awake.
Yeah, if you're still awake.
Hi, everybody. Love you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, what would I want to see? I don't. What I don't want to see, honestly, the biggest thing I don't want to see is I don't want to see them do another standalone game. That I can be honest with you. That is one thing I don't want to see. I want to see them introduce a game that an all half the style AOS army. I want to see them do something that ties into another game. Like Warcry. Warcry is AOS adjacent. Honestly, the Warcry warbands that come with the game aren't the best for Age of Sigmar, but they're some of the best for playing Warcry. I don't know. There's so many things they could do. Like I said, I know what I'd like to see. Like I said, I'd still love to see them release freaking. I'd love to see Space Hulk as its own freaking game. Like that'd be a thing. In the vein of do a new version of Space Hulk, like the way they do Underworlds, but instead of being Warhammer Worlds, it's Warhammer Space Hulk, but it's competitive teams. I think that'd be kind of neat. Competing armies running through a yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You'd have to have 2 factions right off the bat and like 4 more factions ready to go. Actually, no, that's the thing, Gerlin. If you've played Underworlds, Underworlds uses an interesting concept of here's an army. It is a static army. There's not a bunch of different figures for it. This is the army. It's these 5, 6, 7 figures. That's it. They're a static set of a team because they're a team, and you get a deck of cards. And you can use the cards to activate certain abilities on them, and you're playing for certain activation points. And the boards are kind of static, but you can do some things to manipulate them. So the idea that Space Hulk would be the same kind of thing, like you're competing with another team to try and in that respect, it is kind of like Mordheim. You're trying to get to different goal points to gather points up, and you're competing against another team. So yeah, I guess it is. That's not a bad thing. It's just the card play is the interesting part of that too. So I think that'd be kind of cool. It'd be interesting. I'd like to see them do something new anyhow. I always like when they do something new, even if I'm not really into the game. Like I said, I thought Aeronautica was a great idea. I thought it was a cool idea for a game. It just didn't jump out at me right away. And for whatever reason, I've got a buddy of mine that is a regular appearance on this channel he's always trying to get me into it because he loves it. And I'm just like, whatever. It doesn't trip my trigger. It doesn't get me excited about it. Titanicus doesn't get me excited about it for whatever reason. I like the Knights, but they just, for whatever reason, Titanicus just doesn't do it for me. I don't know why. I honestly could not tell you why. Don't even tell me about Lord of the Rings. I'm not a fan of Lord of the Rings. I know, heresy for a geek. The models are gorgeous. The models for Lord of the Rings are pretty. And yes, it's a very rich lore. And the movies are great. I'm not a fan of the movies. They're okay to me. They're for whatever reason, I was in the Lord of the Rings when I was a preteen and when I was an early teenager, but it never sunk into me. Sci-fi was always more of a draw for me. I like fantasy. I like fantasy to a point, but like the fantasy I like is the real nerdy fantasy type stuff. Like honestly, I love Dragonlance, which is not good fantasy. It's bad fantasy, but I love it. I love it to death. But I like more stuff like Conan. Yeah, and that's the thing. For some people, they love Lord of the Rings, and that's their thing. And I would never knock anybody for loving it because that's, everybody has their thing. Like everybody has their go-to thing. What's your favorite? What's your favorite set of books? Lord of the Rings, Star Trek, Star Wars. Everybody has their geek, and I think everybody's geek is valid. I honestly think everybody's geek is valid. And the thing is, I know my geek is not everybody else's geek. Which is why I don't play the game that I would want to play the most, because I don't really know anyone else that's into it as much as I am. And so I don't play it as much. So I just kind of mess around with the ideas, and I'm messing with it a little bit. But in a perfect world, I mean, everybody would play Necromunda, because I think dystopian, cyberpunk, doomed future is the coolest stuff ever. So, but that's me. But we all have our geek, and that's okay. And I think that's the big thing we take away from this, is that I don't care actually what they end up making, as long as it looks cool. Malifaux, I love the look of Malifaux and steampunk. I had a steampunk wedding. I love steampunk. I love the look of Malifaux. God. I wish there was more people that played Malifaux around here, just because I don't even know. I'm not really like, oh, I want to paint these models, but for Malifaux, I want to paint those models. They're so pretty. They're just such pretty figures. Old West, Weird West, steampunk. God, that's just my jam. It's my jam. So, oh. Or make a steampunk 40K of Age of Sigmar army. A steampunk 40K army is at some point down the line to be done. I really want to do Mechanicum, and Mechanicum is steampunk in 40K. I really want to do Mechanicum. The problem is, I love 40K. I mean, I'm not even going to try and lie about it. I love Grimdark. I love everything about 40K. In a perfect world, I will have at least 2,000 points of every single army that I like. So I will have 2,000 points of Tau. I will have 2,000 points of Mechanicum. I think those are the only, and I've got my Necrons. I think those are the only armies left. You know, and that's the thing. Everybody is the bad guy. There are no good guys in 40K. That's what I love about it too. There are no good guys. Everybody's bad. But yeah, I think once I get Mechanicum and once I get my Tau, I think I've got everybody that I want as far as that I want armies of. No, that's not true, because I want to actually do a true Chaos army too. Like, I really want to do a Chaos army. I want to do Agents of Bile. But the nice thing about Agents of Bile, you can just take Bile out and you can do it as another army. So I want to do Agents of Bile. But when I don't have Agents of Bile in there, I want to be able to take him out and run them as word bearers. Because if you're going to be evil in 40K, why keep up any pretenses? Let's just be evil. Hey, I'm glad for you, Dark Tidings. That's awesome. Night Lords. Yeah. Phoenix, you have a wonderful night. We're going to, well, let me give you a shout out then, because we are at that point. It is 9 o'clock at night. It is time to close up shop. I'm going to give a shout out to all my lovely patrons. Let's start off with my Battle Brothers level patrons, $1 a month. I love you guys. You're awesome. And that is Mini Warmutt and Inquisitor Zane. I've got my Battle Leader. Those are $3 a month patrons. And we've got, Mini Warmutt. Say your name. What's up, my man, Mini Warmutt? No, I finally got you here. Man, this is great. Everybody finally shows up now. No, we're closing up shop. People showing up. Well, hopefully you were working with me on the bench. Working on the bench behind you. So I got my $3 members. I've got Heinrich Botha. I've got Wolf Brother Mythos. I've got Hellworks by Hellchild. I've got Joe Bookish. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Why am I forgetting somebody? Hellworks, Mythos, Heinrich Botha, Joe Bookish. Oh, and my buddy Greg Chesh. Can't forget my buddy Greg, one of my best buddies in the world there. Love that man. Greg, get back to me. Oh, now a virus. Well, the fever's broken. That's good, man. You take care of her. Make sure she gets her water and gets your care, man. All the best to you guys. Hope everything goes well. That sucks. Greg, remember, let me know if you need that ride on Saturday morning. We'll get that going. And lastly, I have my Warlord tier patrons at $10 a month. I've got the Ultimate Smash Captain, James Meeks. I've got my lovely niece, Flight of the Phoenix. And I've got the man who hangs in from Order, the guy that keeps everybody in line, the man that keeps even me on task at times. And that's kind of hard to do. And that would be the Commodore. I want to thank all you guys for dropping in and hanging out with me tonight. I know Tuesdays sometimes can be a little chaotic. Sometimes we talk a lot about nothing, and sometimes we talk a lot about a lot of really different stuff. So we kind of get all over the place. But I love these crazy conversations, and I love it when you guys come and sit and talk to me. I love to hear this interaction because you guys really keep me on task and keep me on focus. And we can talk about not only what I want to talk about, but what you want to. And that's what the Tuesdays are for. So, that being said, if you enjoyed this, please give me a like because that lets YouTube know that I am doing something all right, and it will help me get more of you to see me. And the most thing I want in the world, other than is your love, is the world's love. Because everybody needs more D in their life. And the more big D I can give them, I will give them more big D. So, give me your likes. When I got this thing closed, go ahead and throw your comments, questions, anything you want to talk about, put it in the thing below. I'll look at it before you get next week, and we will try and have some great fun. Remember, guys, we actually are not just a 40K and Age of Sigmar channel that just our biggest focus lately, but we are a wargaming terrain. There will be a wargaming terrain tutorial this weekend. I promise it will be up. It is almost done now. I'm building a really great combat board to play on. I'm going to show you guys how you can do it and build that board for about $10. Hard to beat $10 to get a complete combat board for you. So keep an eye out for that video at some point this weekend. Other than that, epic your board, epic your game, and epic your life. I love all you so much. Peace and blessings be upon all of you, and may all your dreams come true, except the lottery. That's mine.